Aloha! Welcome back to the Anxiety Coaches Podcast. I'm your host and coach, Gina Ryan, and I'm so happy to be with you again today as we consider the many ways to bring your mind and body back to its natural peace and calm. In today's episode, I want to talk about how to deal with the fear that your anxiety is coming again. So this is another way of saying the fear of the fear. It's a real sticking point with clearing anxiety, is being at the end here and feeling that the fear is coming on again. I was prompted to talk about this from, again, I'm digging into the emails here. I received an email from MI, and she said, "Thank you for this podcast. I so often say, 'Oh no, here we go again,' and would like to learn how to recognize that I'm not taking those steps backwards. I have dealt with anxiety for 40 years, and I feel I've had enough. Thank you for giving me a little hope, MI." Thank you so much for sending that in. And yeah, 40 years is a long time to be dealing with this, and it's not uncommon. I struggled for 20 years of anxious feelings, of early on panic attacks, and I get mail all the time from people who have struggled for a long time. Many people realizing at some point in their lives as an adult that, oh, that's what I was struggling with as a kid. That's what those feelings were. And maybe it had never been diagnosed, or when I was not anxious as a child, but I know when I was a kid, nobody was talking about it. When I was a young adult, nobody was talking about anxiety. It was, you were nervous or you had the nerves. I'm really dating myself, so I'll stop there. But it's a sticking point, this feeling of that it's coming back again. I guess this is probably why I had to read this email to you all, because she has it in quotes. It says, "Oh no, here we go again." Those were my words. It was how I felt in the morning, because I would have morning anxiety because I was sensitive to my own cortisol. So I would have that feeling and it would rise up through my whole body. And I would say those exact words, "Oh no, here we go again." And I hear other people use this term also. And that in and of itself is what sends us around again on that loop of fear, adrenaline, fear. It's enough that our cortisol is waking us up and giving us those feelings. And that was in my case. But then I would throw a little bit more gasoline on that fire and say, "Oh no, here we go again." And really scaring myself is what I was doing. And I have a feeling that that's what MI is doing here also. She is saying, "Oh no, here we go again." And you know, absolutely you can keep yourself going in fight or flight for 40 years, riding this merry-go-round around and around. So I think it's time to step off and see how to deal with this fear that the anxiety is going to come again. And one of the words that pops up immediately for me when I read this was acceptance. Just as I had to learn to accept that this is how my body feels in the morning, MI has to accept wherever it is in her life that she is saying this, "Oh no, here we go again," that's just where we're at right now. Whatever's happening, whatever the sensation or the thought pattern is that makes her say that, is accepting that that's where we're at. Not thinking that it needs to be different. I didn't stop fearing my sensations in the morning by thinking that they should go away. I made peace with them. I had to accept that this is how my body feels in the morning. And you know what? And then it goes away. Then it calmed down. And now, of course, I can still feel cortisol in my body in the morning, somewhat. And back then, but it really lessened. It doesn't, because I wasn't adding to it. I wasn't pouring more adrenaline onto my already high cortisol and keeping this whole stress cycle going, this fight or flight. My body was trying to wake me up in the morning, trying to get me going. And I was maybe a little more sensitive to the cortisol than other people are, or maybe I was just anxious. I had a heightened sense of everything back then. And you may be in the same boat. And maybe MI, our listener who wrote in, is dealing with that. Oh no, here we go again. No, we don't need to throw gasoline on it. We need to accept what is happening. I feel these sensations running through my body. If we can take a moment and call them out for what they are without judgment, we can remove harm. We can remove our own second arrow, shooting ourselves with the arrow. Life has shot us with an arrow. We've already feeling pain. We don't need to shoot ourselves with another arrow saying this shouldn't be happening, or what's wrong with me that this keeps happening to me. I've done this long enough. This is wrong. We have to take the judgment out of it, because the judgment adds to the stress, and the stress just keeps those hormones rolling in us and makes us feel more uncomfortable and keeps the process going for another hour, another day, or another 10 years. Who knows? Because we keep adding to it. So it's taking that step back and getting off that merry-go-round, those horses going up and down and the music playing and it going round and round, and you're getting dizzy. Get off it. Look at it. See it for what it is, whether it's the situation or a sensation or a thought pattern. Just see it. You don't have to judge it. You don't have to say bad horses on the merry-go-round. Just let it be there. It's going round and round. Let it be. And realize that it is not who you are. It is just something that's there. A passing thought, a passing sensation, a passing situation. Just as this COVID-19 pandemic, this will pass. We will talk about this someday. It's hard to see that right now. And they will be difficult stories maybe we tell about it, but it will pass. We will not live in this moment forever. And that's very important for us to remember, that we have to have acceptance about where we're at and an understanding that this too shall pass. It really does happen. We don't hear those terms over and over again because somebody paid for them to keep going around. We hear them over and over because they're true. This too shall pass. And some people get a lot of comfort out of that phrase. Maybe that's one you want to tuck away and keep with you, that this is a challenging moment right now. Or me in the morning with my cortisol racing through my body and me saying, oh no, here we go again. Or I could say, this is how it feels right now, and this too shall pass, because it always passed. I didn't run around for every hour of the day feeling like that. It was how I woke up. I could keep it going by adding fear to it and hurting myself with a second arrow, but I don't need to do that. I can just see it for what it is and not judge it, not add self-condemnation to it, not be angry at the world. That's a typical reaction sometimes with anxiety, and especially with the way things are happening right now. Anger at somebody or something about it and really pushing back. Believe it or not, that wanting that pushback. It can be energizing, but it can also be harmful in the fact that it can keep us scared. It can keep us thinking that there's something out there that is wrong and that we're in danger because of it. Now, we do have a situation going on that we are not in control of, and believe it or not, this is also how life is. We are not in control. There's so many things always happening, but we don't get to call it. No matter how prepared we are, something we didn't prepare for may pop up. And so we have to trust that we can handle what comes up when it does. I know I said this in an earlier podcast, but it's so important right now because I see a lot of people struggling with not trusting, with not believing in themselves that they can handle things. And the reason I know you can handle it is because you've handled so many other things. Look at my listener who wrote in, MI. She says she has dealt with anxiety for 40 years. Do you know how much strength it takes to be able to do that? To be able to live day in and day out with those kinds of uncertainties running around in the thought process, or symptoms and sensations, or fear of another panic attack coming. That takes so much energy and courage to get up the next day and do it again. So if you can do that, you can certainly step off that merry-go-round for a moment and look at it and see it just without judgment. It's just going around, the horses are going up and down, and that is not who I am. It's just something that is happening. And it will change. It will pass. And the more you can see it clearly without being entangled with it, you can catch your breath and you can be able to take some time to say, this is how life is. I can't control everything. I am willing to control what I can. I'm willing to influence the things in life that I can and take care of what I can. But the things that I cannot control, I am willing to let go of. And then really drop that rope. You don't have to play tug of war with it. Just drop the rope. Just drop the rope. When something comes up right in front of you, you will deal with that. And you'll have more strength to do it because you won't be exhausted from spending all your time in fight or flight, which is exhausting. It uses our energy. And believe me, your fight or flight will come on when you need it. It will. You will be able to run from danger. You will be able to swerve. If we ever get to drive in on the highways again, you'll be able to swerve your car when you need to. These things this is a natural part of your makeup, of your biology. But you can always learn and teach yourself to come back into parasympathetic nervous system and calm down again so that you are not spending every day dealing with the fear that your anxiety is coming back again. Deal with it if it comes. That's how you do that. You will just deal with it if it comes. If a panic attack comes, it's okay because I know that I can deal with it. How do I know that? Because I lived through 1 or 2 or 20 or however many you've lived through. You will live through another one. No one has ever died from a panic attack. It's uncomfortable, it's unwanted, it's undesirable, but you can deal with it. And so you take the power away from it. Take the power away from the anxiety by letting your mind and body know, I can deal with this. I am not afraid of a fearful feeling. I am not afraid of a panic attack. I am not afraid that the fear will come back again, because if it does, I will deal with it. And I know I can deal with it because I have dealt with it. And MI, who wrote in with this email, I know you can do it because you've been doing it for 40 years. So don't fear it anymore. You don't have to fear it. It doesn't have to control you anymore. You can deal with it when it comes, if it comes. Just in that moment, not today. You will deal with it when it comes. Thank you so much for writing in. And if you guys have a question or a comment that you'd like for me to read on a show, you can send it to anxietycoachespodcast@gmail.com. And now for today's quote. Stress is caused by being here, but wanting to be there. And that's from Eckhart Tolle. I'll be back in a few more days with another podcast. Until then, be well and aloha.